Welcome back to another educational video. I am Tom Peterson. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for watching. In this particular video, I am going to talk about vaping and dabbing risks, what to know. And I'm going to be reviewing different risk factors associated with vaping and also different risk factors associated with dabbing, and just give you some enlightenment and some education regarding both. So if this could be a benefit to you and any following videos related to this subject matter, which there'll be many more, please subscribe to the channel so I can keep this good stuff coming your way. And appreciate you being here to watch this and get educated and gain some enlightenment, which is the whole idea here. Also, if this can be a benefit to somebody you love or care about, please pass it along to them. If they're currently vaping, if they're currently dabbing, anything of that nature. Please pass it along so they can benefit from this education as well. And before I start to get into the content here, I want to also address a couple things that are very, very important to me. As of the recording of this video, the vaping associated pulmonary injury, the numbers are about 2,500 in terms of those hospitalized, 48 dead. And one thing I'm really getting tired of reading about is teenagers who have lost their lives, who have lost their lungs, who have lost any hope of ever again being able to compete in the athletics that perhaps they were very gifted in doing in the time in which they suffered the illness. Look, if you're not old enough to be vaping, and again, I'm going to focus on THC here because this is really where the crux of the problem lies. You know, it's predominantly vaping with THC cartridges. So look, you know, if you're underage, don't do it. Okay, the legal age is 21, and that's in the states where it's legal. So if you can't do it legally, I wouldn't do it at all. And if you can't buy your product through a state licensed regulated dispensary, don't buy it. And most of all, just quit vaping altogether. Look, anybody who's under the age of 21 really shouldn't be utilizing THC. Certainly has a negative impact on your growth of your mind, your brain. Still a lot going on there in terms of growth. But you're also really at risk for a lot of these issues we're going to talk about today. So stick around and watch this. Hopefully this will provide you with some enlightenment and some education, and maybe you'll think twice before doing something that will certainly impact your life forever. And there's no going back, there's no changing it, there's no turning back the clock, okay? So let's first start off with what we do know about the vaping deaths and illnesses at this point in time. The culprit predominantly is this vitamin E acetate. I'm not going to go into the specifics of that. Google it. There will be links on this video as well to educate you more about that. But it is really predominant, or I should say most prominent with illegally purchased vape cartridges, THC vape cartridges. So that's why I'm stressing, stay off the black market, okay? If you're going to be purchasing anything at this point in time, and hopefully you'll understand the reasons why as I get further into this video. Secondarily, contaminants are also another big issue, even with the vaping devices that are not counterfeit, okay, the brands that you've maybe come to know and love, trust. There are a number of issues with regards to multiple contaminants, one being this Glucan, okay. That's been found to be fairly prevalent, and this is found on the cell walls of fungi. So it's a fungus, and not good for the lungs, certainly not good for the respiratory system. The other thing that has been found quite oftentimes is this Acrolein. So this is a toxin found in weed killer. So these are things that take place when those liquids are vaporized, okay? And again, not all of the time are the liquids vaporized correctly, and that's again why the devices are also an issue. If the devices are not heating properly and not vaporizing properly as it's designed, you're going to have essentially things getting into your lungs that aren't in vape form, a vapor form. And so, we'll talk a little bit more about that. But the vegetable glycerin is a big problem, because if that isn't vaporized and heated properly, it's just essentially you're putting oil in your lungs. And so this has also been an issue with regards to vaping devices that utilize e-liquids. So again, something else to be thinking about there. Now let's talk about some other things that are also very commonly used in these devices that we continue to find out more about, and that is the propylene glycol. So the propylene glycol is a very common additive, and again, really suggest that you stay away from anything that contains this. It's really one of those things that's on the list of really not good for you, because it's a carbonyl. Okay, so what happens when it's heated? Essentially, it converts to a carbonyl, and one of the carbonyls that exist is formaldehyde. Now, this formaldehyde is a group 1 carcinogen in terms of causing cancer. So it is very, very high on the list of cancer-causing agents, and this is a byproduct of vaping, because this is an additive that is used in a lot of vapes, e-cartridges and e-liquids. Okay, so again, something to be aware of there. Now, there's another one too, Polyethylene Glycol 400. Now, this is another one that's quite common, and these two are really on the list of those to be most aware of, because this one has something called, hopefully I can pronounce this right, acetaldehyde, okay? So the acetaldehyde, if you've ever had a hangover and you feel real crappy, okay, what's really going on there is this acetaldehyde is running rampant in your body. It's part of the metabolism process of trying to get the toxins out of you related to the alcohol. And so that's why you feel so crappy, because this stuff is running around in your body. And so again, it is something that is not good to have in your lungs. It's certainly not good to be inhaling, and it is a byproduct of this polyethylene glycol 400. Now, this polyethylene glycol is also utilized for laxatives. It's also a byproduct, I shouldn't say a byproduct, an ingredient utilized in laxatives. So if that makes you feel any better about it, just keep that in mind if you're considering utilizing anything that has that within it. All right, so these are some things that, again, they're there. We don't know what the risk factors are long-term with these things. We just know at this point in time, based on the research that I've done, that they're bad for you, that they are not good. So these are just more reasons to stay away from vaping in general. But on top of that, reason enough to just not vape anything at all if you are going to utilize THC. Anything related to CBD, really haven't found a whole lot of evidence on that, because apparently there just aren't a lot of people vaping CBD. There's a very, very large group of people who are vaping THC, and so that's why, again, this is really most relevant with regards to this video, okay? So let's talk a little bit about dabbing, all right? So I'm gonna get into more videos regarding dabbing. Reason being is, it is an alternative for those of you who are of legal age to be utilizing THC, and those of you who can get concentrates and extracts legally through the dispensaries. Because again, don't recommend buying any of these particular products on the black market, and I'll go through the obvious reasons why. So, but before I go there, I want to cover one more thing too with regards to the vaping. One other toxin that really is starting to rear its ugly head are heavy metals. So they're also finding that a lot of the byproducts that we're inhaling, or people who vape are inhaling, they're inhaling up to 11 heavy metals. I'm not going to go through the whole long list of them, but I will tell you about the 3 that are the biggies. And those 3 are chromium, lead, and nickel. And those are known carcinogens. And so this is heavily related to the atomizers in the vaping devices, causing these chemical compounds, these byproducts, these heavy metals to get into your lungs. You're inhaling them. And again, the lungs weren't designed to be inhaling metal, as we know from, those who have suffered, death and lung injuries from manufacturing facilities and such, where that was a byproduct of being there. Mines are a perfect example of that, right? Lungs do not like it. It's really nasty for them. So it's something else to be aware of and something else that they're finding. So there just continues to be more and more findings all the time, all right? Now, getting on to dabbing. So dabbing is something I'm going to spend quite a bit of time on, and I'm going to have many, many more videos regarding dabbing, because this is something that may be an alternative to those of you who want to get away from vaping and perhaps should get away from vaping given what we know. And not to mention, furthermore, what we don't know, which is even scarier. With regards to dabbing, this is something that's been around for about 10 years. It hasn't really been very commonplace, but I think it's going to become more so now. And so this is an opportunity to educate you on that a little bit. So if you go back and look or research dabbing, you'll find some news stories about people catching themselves on fire, blowing up their houses, things of that nature. Reason being is back in the day, when people were making the product at home, they probably shouldn't have been doing it at home. First thing I'm going to say is, please don't attempt to make any concentrates or extracts at home unless it is rosin tech, and I'll get into multiple videos on how to do that, because that is very safe to do at home, and it is a very safe method of utilizing a concentrate or an extract, because it doesn't utilize solvents. So I want to get into that a little bit. So let's get into that now. So the dab-related health risks, obviously manufacturing the product. So don't do it. Buy it from a state licensed dispensary, highly regulated, okay? I would never, ever condone or suggest buying any sort of concentrate or extract on the black market. Don't do it. Guarantee you it's not going to be of good quality. And that goes for the product that was utilized, which is obviously the cannabis to start with, okay? And then secondarily, the solvents utilized, it's very important that they're purged correctly. And this is all done in labs, that are high tech, that are very clean, with very good, expensive equipment. So purging, and we'll get into that in a second. But let's get back to the other things that really impact the quality of your concentrate or extract. It's going to be the quality of, again, like I said before, the product. If you're buying it from somebody who bought some crappy Mexican weed full of fungus and pesticides and who knows what else, that's just going to carry over into the concentrate or extract. If it isn't purged properly, going to have residual solvents left behind. Butane, propane, for example, not good to be inhaling that stuff, not good for you, okay? So that's why, again, I'm going to stress, if you buy it from a state licensed dispensary, they have very, very strict rules with regards to how much byproduct can be left behind after the purging process, and the numbers are very small. Now, I'm going to get into another conversation about this in the next video, but that is, the opinion of those who feel that trace amounts of the solvents are okay, those who feel that they aren't. This whole thing with concentrates and extracts, solvents are utilized predominantly today in the process of manufacturing those, and because of that, there has been some, news, media attention paid to these solvents, mainly because, people were lighting themselves on fire in the process of trying to do this stuff at home. Still not good, okay? So I'm going to get into that further and teach you some things and let you know more about that in the next video in relation to those things and how that all works. But the other thing I want to talk to you about that's really, really most critical, and that is terpenes. Something else that people aren't thinking about and realizing, and that's, again, why I'm here, is to help educate you on this. Terpenes are a very valuable part of the cannabis plant, very, very beneficial compound, okay? It's what gives the plant its aroma, its taste, But terpenes are found to have many, many other benefits, much like the cannabinoids, above and beyond the obvious. But the problem is terpenes can become toxic, okay? If they're heated at too high of a heat level, they can actually become toxins at that point in time and become carcinogens. So that's where I'm going to educate you more on the following videos, the next one in particular, and the others related to dabbing, that series. So if you want to learn more about that, subscribe so you can get that information as well. It's really important that the dabbing be done properly. If your material is overheated, if it's too hot, and a lot of the instructional videos out there are incorrect, in my opinion, in terms of how to do it. It doesn't require that much heat. Too much heat is going to turn those terpenes into toxins. So we certainly don't want to have that happen. So those are really the initial risks at this point in time that I wanted to just make you aware of. I don't think I have anything else to, well, let's talk about this. So methacrolein and benzene are the two byproducts of, essentially burning your terpenes. So won't spend a lot of time on those. You can certainly Google those, learn more about those in the links. But those are the things that, we got to pay attention to in terms of this particular way of going about it. Also, like I said before, fungus, mold, and pesticides will reside in the concentrate of the extract if the product used was of poor quality. So we need to talk about that, and we'll do so some more in the future videos. But for now, this is really just kind of my introductory video into dabbing, but also really a greater discussion with regards to vaping and the risks associated with vaping now that we've been able to uncover more of the evidence. So making progress there. Just want to pass it along to you. I appreciate you being here for this. And again, hopefully you'll be here for the next one. Look forward to seeing you soon. Thanks so much.